If you're a runner that's been dealing with hip pain, you've probably tried a lot of different things, whether it's foam rolling, stretching, or taking time off, but you find that pain keeps coming back. In this video, I'm going to talk about why and show you 3 things that you can do to start to manage this. Now, I work with a lot of different runners, whether they're just starting or elite, and I find that once people get to that age of 35, 40 above, people start blaming age. But whether you're 20 or 50, usually this hip pain is the result of suboptimal loading patterns. So let's get into our first one. First thing we're going to address here is a muscle commonly referred to as a TFL, which sits here, just below our hip bone here around the front and side of our hip. Now this muscle should be working in synergy with some of our other muscles such as our glutes to stabilize our pelvis when we're on one leg. Oftentimes people who don't have good firing patterns tend to use this more as a prime mover and it just gets overloaded and itself can become quite sore and painful and irritable. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a ball. You can use a tennis ball if you don't have one of my special Stretch Yourself Strong balls. Find this hip bone here. For me, it's basically where my pocket is. We're going to put the ball anywhere around here and we're just going to lay on this ball. So I'm going to pop my other knee out to the side here so that I can get this kind of sideways loading. And I'm just going to hang on the ball here. So anywhere from, 2-3 minutes. It'll probably be quite sore when you lay on it. If it's too sore to lay on, you could kind of stand up against a wall and just put some pressure on the ball here. Once you've been on for a couple of minutes, moving side to side and see, hopefully, if you can get this muscle to chill out a bit. You could follow this up also with a stretch. So a good way to get into this muscle is we come in to tilt our pelvis under, hands go on the front knee, I pop my hip out to the side. I'm kind of going to drop my left shoulder diagonally away. So you should be feeling that through the front here. We could also add an isometric here, which we'll do by pushing the back foot hard into the ground. So anything we can do initially in this strategy to release, stretch, get our TFL to kind of chill out a little bit before we do some of these other things is going to be beneficial. But really, we want to make sure that we're not using this to stabilize ourselves when we're on one leg. We want to use our correct muscles, which we'll do in our next exercise here. If you've seen some of my other videos, you might have seen this exercise. In this one, we're going to look to get our glutes to fire up. And there's plenty of glute exercises you can do, but I think if you're looking at decreasing your hip pain for running, this is by far the best one you can do, because oftentimes our glute exercises are just getting us good at training our glutes and getting good at exercises. We want to make sure that we're functional in this position on one leg and our glute is doing what it should do when we're on one leg. So first we've kind of released our TFL, stretched our TFL, and now we're going to fire up the muscles that we want to use when we're on one leg. So I like being on something like a table or something low and hanging on to it and kind of falling back a little bit here. So I'm hanging on so that I can allow my weight to go backwards. I've got my left foot on the ground, my right leg is lifted here. I'm going to lift this leg. I'm going to point my right hip towards my left foot here, and you should feel your glutes start to fire up here. Now, just doing some isometric holds alone here can be beneficial, maybe up to around 30 seconds. We could also start to look to do some pulses here. Okay, we're just going to start to get some fatigue into this muscle, switch it on. What you want to do after doing this is make sure you have a little walk around. We want to improve that pattern of firing this muscle when we're on one leg. So just doing the exercise isn't enough. We want to utilize that muscle in our positions when we're walking and running. In talking about the pattern when we want to make sure our glutes are firing when we're on one leg, walking, running, etc., we also need to make sure that that pattern is triggered. And one of the things that triggers that pattern is connection of our big toe with the ground. So essentially, the glute is there to decelerate pronation. So pronation is one of those things that's kind of demonized in running, and we do all these things to try and stop pronation. Pronation is a very necessary mechanic to absorb force and to ensure that all these other firing patterns take place in our body. So we want to make sure that we are seeing pronation in our foot. Now, we can do a few things to help encourage pronation. We could free the joints in our foot up with a ball. So what I do here is I get a ball and kind of run it through all the joints, push into joints around my foot. So I'm not just moving or massaging muscle here, I'm trying to get joints to move. I'll also do things like use a wedge to pop the foot up and encourage movement of the midfoot, trying to get pronation to happen. This is a much bigger topic than I can talk about in a couple of minutes here. But encouraging pronation is important. The other thing you can make sure you're doing is in this glute exercise, which we just did, we're ensuring that we have contact with the big toe. So when you're in this exercise, you've dropped this hip, and you might find if you push your big toe hard into the ground when you're holding that tension in that static position, you should feel more firing through your glute. That alone can be enough to start to train a pattern, but we need to make sure that we're having that connection with our big toe on the ground when we're running as well. So that's just a few ideas that you could look to implement to try and start to improve the mechanics of how the muscles work around your hips and hopefully start to reduce your pain. These would be an ideal thing to do before running. So we're looking to change these patterns before we go out for a run. You could do them mid-run, whatever. You could do them as a daily thing to try and improve those patterns as well. We will consider these strategies in my Stretch Yourself Strong system a phase 1 strategy. If you want to know more about it, you can grab the book, watch the videos here, subscribe, like, share, all that stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.